Hello, welcome to another episode of Lattes and Leaders, where we are speaking to young professionals across Indianapolis that are killing it in their industries. This episode is sponsored by MJW Mortgage, and we are thankful that they allow us to use this beautiful space. My next guest is Josiah Kaufman. He is a custom tailor here in Indianapolis and focuses on suit making and personal branding when it comes to style. We do talk about the practicalities of style, but we also talk about the psychological effects that your appearance might have on you internally and from the person sitting across from you. Sometimes we think of style as an individualistic approach or what makes us most comfortable, but sometimes we need to think about who we want to be and how we want to be perceived. This was a fascinating conversation, and I really enjoyed my time with Josiah, and I think you will too. Josiah, you're actually one of the first ones that's actually had just a straight espresso shot.
Nice. Tasty.
You feel all jazzed up?
All couple layers of it. The flavors came through.
We got to meet what's been probably 2-ish months ago now, and just like hit it off immediately. For those who notice a little different attire, it has been some of the inspiration of this man here locally. But we're going to get to talk about fashion and style, maybe elevating, being more intentional. And I'm excited to go through that journey with you.
Yeah. I mean, we met through, was it Instagram, I think, was how we originally got connected, and just have a conversation and then start from there. And it's been really cool getting to know you already.
Yeah, I think the first thing I saw from you was, we just talked about this the other day, but it was like an ad that you ran on one of your posts. And it did super well, and it has hit my algorithm, 10 times since that even first impression. But I think it knows that I'm looking into style, and so it's just like, it's pushing you. But that ad did super duper well.
Yeah, I'm very, very grateful. It was a labor of love, and I had a lot of help with that. But suffice it to say that I have just this year in 2025 been a little bit more intentional about putting effort into putting things out on the internet so that people know who I am and what I'm doing. And it's already created some really cool connections like this. Yeah.
Okay, let's start with your background. So that's usually where I like to start, because usually we don't find ourselves in our industries right off the bat. It's a journey to get there. So I'm guessing you did not start in style and tailoring right out of college. There was a journey.
Yeah, I definitely was not looking for that. I'm Indiana native, born and raised, and originally went into school for nursing. And I was in the healthcare industry for 4.5 years about. So I went to Indiana Wesleyan University for my undergrad and studied to become a registered nurse. And that's what I did. I ended up graduating from there in 2015 and cut my teeth at Methodist downtown in the trauma neuroprogressive care unit. So I was helping take care of people that had come out of gunshot wounds, car accidents, motorcycle accidents, traumatic brain injuries, stuff like that. And the background to all of this, back in like high school, when people are asking, well, what do you want to do with your life? You're like, shoot, I don't know. The things that I knew about myself at that time were that I know God made me with a love for math, science, people, and that I had family members that had been in healthcare as well. So a lot of the things sort of lined up, and I was very open to suggestion. I was like, well, guidance counselor, what do you think I should do? What does this assessment say will make sense for me or whatnot? And she's like, well, I think nursing would be a really good idea for you. And I was like, sure, cool. And so I basically didn't question a whole lot when I was like, I could see that. And so dove in head first, and you finish what you start. I worked hard to get through school and liked a couple of classes enough to take them twice. So I ended up having 5 years in that 4-year degree. And you figure I would pick up on a couple of hints along the way that's like, well, this might be a little different than what you're expecting. But again, you finish what you start. I grew up in a family where you work hard and finish what you start. And you persevere and you work through it. So I did. And when I went into the nursing field, like I said, I started in trauma neuroprogressive care, and I had this vague idea of what I thought I really wanted to get to, which was flight nursing. I thought that sounded like Top Gun. That was super cool. I was like, man, what if I could, go do emergency medicine? And then what if I get to go in a helicopter or something? And it's like, that sounded fascinating to me. All of this to say that I went through a couple different nursing units to try and figure out where made the most sense for me to fit into the workforce. And the second to last position that I held was actually in emergency medicine. And that was not a good fit at all. It was like the worst possible fit. I stayed there for probably 6 months, and we were trying to figure out, the unit and me, how does this work together with who Josiah is and what the emergency department needs. And we both were like, yeah, this isn't the right fit. And so I was kind of heartbroken because I was like, man, that's like the step to get to this thing that I thought was really cool. And I was pretty dejected at that point. I was like, well, I don't really know what to do anymore. And nursing manager of the emergency department, what do you think makes sense based on what you know of me? She's like, well, with your temperament, with your natural skill set, with your heart, like, you really should seriously consider the opposite end of the spectrum. You should check out palliative care. You should check out hospice. You should check out stuff that, like, you sit with people for a while and you talk to them and stuff like that. Emergency medicine is like, you got to be somewhat of a jarhead to excel in that. And so I took her suggestion. I looked around for different positions in that field, and I ended up working as a registered nurse case manager for like a year and a half in a hospice group. So I was driving around to people's homes, driving around to different nursing care facilities, and sort of being the quarterback of the healthcare team, coordinating both with family members and the patients, and then also all of the healthcare professional side of things. And that was honestly a really, really good fit for me in terms of my natural temperament, the things that God made me to do, just the love for people, all that kind of stuff. It was a very good blend of those skills. Fast forward another, say, year and a half, and my wife and I were fortunate enough to pay off our student loan debt. About April of 2019 was when we finally finished paying those things off, and my wife saw me burning out. And as is often the case, I think God brings together a husband and wife with strengths and weaknesses that cover each other's. And my wife could definitely see things about challenges that I was facing in the field that I just thought was hard work that I had to work through. Again, that sort of finish what you start, be disciplined, move forward even when it's challenging. That's part of what being dedicated means. And she's like, I think this is actually not a great fit for you. Like, you do enjoy aspects of it, but you're burning out. And I was like, I tend to agree. So we took an opportunity that we were fortunate to have where we had no debt, no kids. We had some money in the bank. And she said, take a step back, ask some bigger questions. Maybe it means that you go back into nursing and it's in the same way or in a different way, or maybe you enter the workforce in a completely different way, but I support you either way. And I was like, all right, thank you, wife. I'm very, very grateful for that. And so I took time off of full-time work. I did some part-time jobs. I went back to the same lady that helped me in high school, did more career coaching, testing, all this kind of stuff, and basically gained more understanding about what makes me tick, because I had like 10 years worth of experience since I graduated high school at that point to say, all right, here's how the nature of who I am functions based on what we thought back then and what life has taught us since that point. And I'm extremely grateful for that intentional time away and then intentional time discovering more about how that functions in myself. Basically, what we learned was the stuff that drew me into nursing in the first place still makes sense, but the structure of working in healthcare, all the stuff that I love to do is secondary in nature to what I have to do. And what I have to do, I can do, but it's really, really hard for me. It's not my natural bent to be the kind of organized that you need to be in order to be in emergency medicine, for instance. I'm much more relationally aware, and my strengths lay in the people skills and all that kind of stuff. So what lights my fire in nursing, I can't really do without also burning myself out. And so the recommendation was, hey, you need to get into something that is relational consulting. Like, you got to check out anything that gets you in front of people. You develop a relationship with them and help them with something practical. And you'll probably be fine checking out anything in sales or consulting. And I was like, that's pretty broad. It's like, just go check it out, see what's out there. Like, all right, fine, sure. So when I started looking into things, I was like trying to connect all the dots. I was interviewing at Eli Lilly Company because, well, I got medical background, all this stuff. And there were some really interesting things that I found along the way, but none of it was really sticking. I did have a really interesting interview with Lilly, but that didn't end up panning out. And a friend that knew that I was looking for a change at the time worked with the company that I'm with now and approached me about it and said, hey, why don't you come ride along with me sometime? This is the company that I work with. This is what I do. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm a nurse. Like, he's like, sell clothes with me. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Go kick rocks or something. I don't know. It's like, seriously, I think it's a good idea. Come check it out. I think you'll like it more than you think that you would. Like, fine, sure. I'll go on a ride along with you. And lo and behold, I went on a ride along day with him. And I was like, yeah, actually, this is kind of cool. I get to go drive around Indianapolis and see cool people that are running businesses and help them with their clothes. And they're super happy to see you. And you get to help them feel confident and wear cool stuff. Like, actually, yeah, that is pretty cool. And more than that, I could see myself doing that. So I kind of put it in the back of my head. I had an interview there. They gave me an offer, and I went back and I talked with my wife about things. So the transition into this, I ended up having, probably another 3 or 4 months that was in front of me, aside from this opportunity, that I was like, I don't really know where I'm going to be, but I have this really cool opportunity right here that's way different than anything I've considered before, but it could make sense. Honey, what do you really think about this? And she's like, well, I mean, I support you 100%, and I think that you'd be good at it if you decide to do it. So if you want to do it, I support you. Just don't go into it with a mindset like, I'm going to try this out for a couple months and see how it goes. Like, if you're going to do it, just do it. Like, all right. So I ended up saying, yeah, I want to go do that. And I started January 6th of 2020 with a company called Tom James Company. And very grateful. I'm almost 6 years later. I've been able to build a personal business in it and do quite well and provide for my family. It's been great.
Something I noticed in there a couple times is that you took a lot of advice and wisdom from others. Is that like a natural bent for you? Do you still do that? Did you find that more difficult to find your quote unquote find yourself in? Or did you find a lot of actual like practical wisdom in seeking so much counsel?
I think it's a double-edged sword in the sense that some people are very attuned to just what they think about things, and they charge ahead and they make a path. And that can be a very good strength. That is the nature of a person, is what you're noticing. And the nature of a person that makes decisions by themselves carries some unique strengths and advantages with it that I do not have. But they also carry some weaknesses and some blind spots that I tend to avoid. And my nature is more so to seek the advice of people that I trust. And there's some advantages to that where I'm able to get a better sense of direction in some ways, but then there's downsides to it as well. So I think I've always been, maybe I'm like the third of 4 kids, so I'm kind of used to looking at how my older siblings did things. I'm like, well, what do you think about this or something like that? So I find that I'm constantly trying to learn how to better make decisions. And I'm trying to pick that up from people that I trust or that I think do a really good job along the way. And the challenge that I face within that is not getting trapped in just looking for what other people are doing. Like, I have to be able to come to my own conclusions and make my own decisions. And this was one of the first times where I was like, yeah, I feel like I'm taking ownership of my own life and taking the data that I have and taking a step into what feels like the unknown, because I'd never done anything other than hourly or salaried work before. And now I'm in a commission-based job and have part ownership in a company. And it's like, it's way different than anything that I've done before. So that type of, I'm going to decide to do this. And when I started, like I took to heart what my wife was talking about. And I'm like, the only way that this is going to make sense for me to step into a completely different field is if I pretend, just for a moment, let's pretend like, well, what if I retired here? What if this is what I did for a career? How would I learn about my craft? How would I pursue excellence? How would I take care of client service? How would I approach life if this is what I was going to do? And that decision has served me really well.
I think that's the perfect way to go about anything. And it seems like that's not what a lot of people do. A lot of people have plan Bs. I'm probably pretty bad at it. I have multiple things in the fire at one time. It's a really bad habit of mine. But to like anything that you decide to do, if you want to pursue it with excellence, go about it as if this is your only option. Mm-hmm. I think I've heard a couple entrepreneurs kind of say that, and I hear it. It goes in one ear and out the other. But I feel like it is really good advice. Like, just if this is what you're going to commit to for the foreseeable future, this is it. I'm going all in. This is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean when you say decide? Are you going to vacillate? Are you going to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out? Or whatever it is that you're making the decision for. It's even like, what tie did I put on today? I had 2 ties picked out. I'm like, I'm going to put this one away and I'm going to decide to wear this one. And then you live with the consequences because it doesn't matter. Like, it's okay. The beautiful thing about the way that God set up time to be is that you move forward, the sun sets and then it rises again and you get to live a new day tomorrow. And if you make a decision and it didn't pan out the way that you expected, you can make a new decision with new information. That's always really cool. And instead of getting trapped in indecision and like, well, I need to make the perfect decision, that's the trap that I find myself having struggled with that a lot in life. What I can really quickly pick out about how people trap themselves in life in big decisions and small. I mean, even to the extent of like, you go to Jersey Mike's or Jimmy John's and you want to get a sandwich. Well, what sandwich am I going to get? I can stand there for 10 minutes and I can look up on my phone different reviews. It's like, well, what about Capriati's? Should I go over there? It's like, dude, I'm already here. I need to get a sandwich. At the end of the day, I'm going to eat the sandwich and I'm going to like it or I'm not. So really the only question is, do I want to get something that I know that I like because I've had it already? Or do I want to try something new? And if that's the simplest decision that you make, then you can move on with your life.
So I want to talk about your first year. You went from, I would say, almost the complete opposite. You went from a very stable industry that you know your hours, you know exactly what you're going to get paid, and your job's not going anywhere for a long time. You're not really in the business world. You might have thought business, but like as a salesperson, you're practically creating your own little business. You have to think about marketing. You have to think about sales funnels. You have to think about client relationships. You have to think about yourself as a full functioning business, your communication, all that. And then you go into an industry you're not as familiar with. I don't know how well you were versed in style and tailoring before this. And so you're taking on like 3 very specifically individual decisions that are
major role shifts
opposite of what your life looked like. Mm-hmm. What did that first year look like? You can kind of take whichever direction if you want to talk about the style, like how you had to learn the actual craft of it, talk about the business side of things, where you had to like shift your mind into like, what does a business owner think about? How do I put all these puzzle pieces together to make a good functioning business? And then now you're on commission, which is just, you have to eat what you kill, which is a completely different model than hourly in a stable industry.
Yeah.
What did your first year look like?
The first year was really challenging, and I won't paint it with too rosy of a picture. Business and any flavor of entrepreneurship is very challenging. Like, it is hard. It's not easy. It might be simple. Like, the simple thing is, well, what am I here to do? I'm here to make money for my family and help people. So how do I do that? Well, I sell clothes to people. That's how I make money for my family and how I help people. Okay, well, how do I sell clothes to people? Well, first of all, I need to go see people. And how do I see people? Well, I got to set appointments with people. Well, how do I set appointments with people? Well, I've got to reach out to them somehow. I call them. I send them a letter in the mail. I go and I drop in at their office. I try and get introductions or referrals. Or I don't know. I put myself out on the internet. Like, there's so many different ways for you to approach things, and you do need to approach each one of those things. And you do need to learn each one of those things. So you start with the end goal and you work it backwards from there. To your point, with there being 3 major shifts, 3 major roles, I'd say let's start with the business part first, because without understanding the core principle that without a client, you don't have a business, you can't start anything. It's like, great, I have this cool product, but I have no idea who's going to buy it, or I'm not willing to go out and find out. The first year, I would say, I had a lot of support in terms of training for here's how you can start to put yourself out there and how you can start to see who needs help. And your job in the business part of things is just being okay being uncomfortable, making yourself disciplined even when it's difficult, in the things that are outreach methods, prospecting. If you've never worked in something where you have to source your own potential business, it's terrifying when you first start. And it continues to be terrifying in some level forever, because technically you don't know where your next deal is coming from. What I will say is that it gets easier because you start to see yourself become more of the person that you want to be. Like, you have to have this vision of, well, if I were a business that was really well established, what would it look like and how would I run it? What would the ideal be? My ideal is I want people to seek me out because they know that I do really, really good work and that I actually care about them. And you have to start doing that somehow. So I'd say that the first year, especially it being my first month out of training was March of 2020 and the world kind of shut down. It was really weird, but thankfully the company had a lot of really good supports for everyone. And especially when you start out, like, there is actually a decreasing base commission or base pay structure. So I wasn't completely payless for the first year, or technically the first 2 years, but it gave me a little bit more leeway to try things out and learn failing forward, if you will. I actually talk about this with people whenever they are considering starting into something like what I'm doing. The first thing that I say is, I'm going to get really real with you, and I'll be as open and upfront with you as I'll be, and then you can be, in turn, as open and upfront as you want to be. But can I ask you a personal question? How much debt do you have? What are your financial obligations? Do you even know what they are? You don't have to share them with me, but do you know them for yourself? Okay, how much money do you have? And again, I don't need to know the answer to that, but how much runway do you have to try something, to give it your all, not make any money, totally suck at it, and not go insane because you can still pay the bills? Like, if you're going to start something and expect to be an expert right out the gate, it's not likely to happen if you don't have any experience in it. You've got to give yourself time. So that's a portion of it, is I had to learn how do I start to source clients so that I can start to get some of my first deals under my belt, gain more experience as I'm learning through the training, as I have a really good training team that's helping me make sure that I'm not doing a bad job for those first clients as well. And then you can talk about the style piece. That is, I would say, heavily self-directed. There's definitely training that goes into that, but it's not, I would say everyone has to decide the level of excellence that they want to take in their craft. And when it comes to what I do, I poured myself into that. It's how I approach things in life. You can, if you ever talk to people that know me outside of this context, like friends or family, they'll tell you that I'm pretty crazy in some ways, where I dig into things and I really want to understand them. And that's, again, a nature thing of who I am and how I operate and how God's gifted me that I think works to my advantage in this. So we talked about how was it to start in business, talked a little bit about how was it to start in style. I feel like I learned a lot in a very short amount of time. And then I've continued to learn over the past number of years in terms of style, but it really all depends on how much decision you make to focus on growing as a professional. And that applies to any field. Like, you might be someone that just started in being a mortgage broker and you actually put the hours in to learn your stuff, versus someone that said, well, I can kind of look up the answers online and check the right boxes, and then I get out into the field and I don't know what I'm doing. You're going to have totally different experiences in terms of confidence and success And success begets more confidence, which begets more success too. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, you answered it. All three of them. Sorry.
Oh, great. Cool.
I stacked them, and so that's my fault. But so I want to go back to before you became into the craft and you really dug into it. What did you think about style? How much did you think about it? The intentionality of it? And I'll have a follow-up question, so you don't have to go too far on that one.
Two things. One, I didn't think about style too much. I did think about it some, and I took pride in aspects of my own personal appearance or elements of my wardrobe that I was like, wow, this, like when I show up to an event or to an interview or when I show up to work, I want to be put together. I remember even in college where I was like doing a data processing job while I was working just so that I could have some income. I remember getting my favorite pair of chino pants, a nice pair of wingtip shoes, and a button-down shirt. I had a scraggly beard. I had glasses, but I felt crisp. Like I was showered. I wasn't shaven, but I was showered. I had cologne on, and I had my nice shirt and pants on with my nice shoes. And I was like, I'm taking myself seriously, and I'm taking this role seriously. And it's going to be conveyed through how I do the work, but also how I show up and how I present myself, how I get prepared. That was about the extent of my knowledge of style, or it was more so the philosophy of it. And I think this is something that I was thinking about this. I want to focus on that a lot with how we talk about things. Style is, I don't want to say contentious, but people get real big opinions about it. I think style starts before you talk about clothes. Style starts in the mind, it starts in the heart, it starts with, what am I trying to do? You've got to ask yourself bigger, deeper questions than what tie goes with this shirt, or should I have a peak lapel versus a notch lapel? Like none of that really matters first without determining what's the message that I'm trying to convey, that I'm trying to convey, not that I think other people want me to. It's how am I taking myself seriously or not? How am I taking this role seriously or not? And then how does that line up with how I see things happening with clothing? So short answer, didn't think about style too much, but I did think a lot about philosophy. That was actually one of the minors that I had considered was political science, philosophy, stuff like that. Because it's just interesting to me. I would say I consider how I think about things much more so than I ever thought about clothes. And now that I'm in the field, I just transfer all of that attention and focus to, okay, well, let me learn everything about this. And it still has the background of philosophy.
That's exactly where I want to go. So those are relatively the rest of my questions are in this vein. And like, yes, I want to talk about some practicalities of like tips that people can do to elevate their style. But if there's not a transfer of like the heart and mind towards why this is important, then I think it just falls short and it's just somewhat vanity. But to intentionally understand your perception. And it seems like, I'd say in America or maybe in our generation, we don't want to put too much weight on anything. Like nothing's really that important. Like you're taking things too seriously. Like it doesn't matter what I wear. Like that doesn't show who I truly am. My authentic self is way more than the clothes that I wear. And I think that has done somewhat of a disservice, and it's played in our architecture. It's played in our traditions. It's played in the way that we present ourselves. In so many ways, like we have just disregarded a lot of those things. But I think the philosophy, like your first impression and how you present yourself, how you feel, you even talked about that before you even got into style, the way that you felt wearing that because you took yourself seriously. You took time to hygiene and pick out your clothes because you wanted to be taken seriously in your own internal heart, right? So yeah, go a little bit more into that your clothing does have importance. It does say something about yourself and how to go through that exercise of getting to that place in your own mind before you ever think about the clothing that you wear. What would you talk about with the client?
I don't know that I'm qualified to answer that second question as much as just me having theories and opinions. But I can speak to the personal piece of how I've seen it unfold in me and unfold in clients. I'll separate it out just briefly. And going back to the world of starting a business, and if anyone is considering doing something like what I'm doing, you'll have to understand there are clients that you need to work with that are just, I need a blue suit and I don't want to think about it. And I just want to be in and out, one, done, and I'll never see you again. And that's perfectly fine. And there's actually clients that I'll see multiple times that they're really not thinking about it. They don't care about it very much. But let me say it this way. They've thought about it long before we've ever interacted, and they've decided that they care about thinking about it very little. This is the level of effort that I want to put into this, and it's just in, out, done, use it until it breaks, and then I get a new one, and that's fine. That's an appropriate philosophy because they take ownership of that. But the moorings of culture or of a person, like where do I see myself in society or in my own family, in my friend group, as a person, role models, all that kind of stuff, that does get tossed up a lot in younger generation, where you do see a lot of people that have pushed back structure, and they're like, I don't want someone else to tell me what to do. When it comes to how you deal with, well, how did you ask that question again? It was about, ask me that question again, please.
Yeah. So what you're talking about with tradition, a lot of America is rebellious. Mm-hmm. They kick back towards any type of institution, structure, individualistic. I want to express my authentic self. Mm-hmm. I want to be comfortable. I like sweatshirts. I like sweatpants. That doesn't tell me, my clothing doesn't tell me anything about my identity. You can't just judge me off that. You have to judge me on my inside and what I do. Mm-hmm. And we're probably one of the first generations or people groups, a very American thing, that has thought that way. That it's all about the inside. The outside doesn't matter. The architecture doesn't matter. Design doesn't matter. Your style doesn't matter. That's all just artificial perceptions that you want to create.
So it's also, you're talking about the nature of freedom from constraints versus freedom to do things purposefully. When you talk about freedom and not being tied down by tradition or something like that, the improper understanding of, or I would say a faulty view that doesn't help as much as you think that it will, of freedom is no one can tell me what to do at any time. No structure, no system, no person, no group, no God, no anything can put a restriction on my free will to do whatever I want, whenever I want to, for whatever reason at all. That is a version of freedom that comes with its own burdens. When you say, well, society doesn't function this way anymore, I can wear whatever I want to, no matter where I'm going. It doesn't matter if it's an event or if I'm going to the grocery store or whatever. Technically, you are correct. You don't have to do those things in order to exist as a human person. But it does affect the way that you feel, the way others perceive you. That is a nature of how the world exists that lays in conflict with your desired outcome of just not having to be responsible for anything. You're still responsible for yourself, and if you make a decision to treat your own, and this is where I hesitate to say appearance, because it's not even your appearance. I think that you're treating your own sense of self, your own soul, as structureless, as you're not taking yourself seriously. You're
selfish.
Yeah, well, by trying to push away any sort of constraint or responsibility for yourself, you're trying not to be weighed down by having to remember anything, by having to do anything. Sometimes there is an actual enjoyment in the comfort that like sweatpants have. So like I have sweatpants, I have t-shirts, I wear ratty clothes, but on purpose at the appropriate time, at the appropriate place. Just because you can dress well doesn't mean that, well, here's the other way to say it. There's a very big difference between casual and sloppy. That's a very big thing that I will talk about with individual clients. It's like you have to start to understand who you are and that you can express yourself honestly and authentically in a more formal setting or in a more casual setting. And you can also express yourself in a way that's not true to who you are, formally and casually. There's intentional ways to dress formally, intentional ways to dress casually, and there's very unintentional ways of doing that. And I notice when myself or when other people, you've probably had a similar experience where you're like, I just put on clothes because I needed clothes on really fast. And then I leave the house and I go, man, this doesn't really feel good. And you can talk about, well, it doesn't feel like me, but really you can even notice this doesn't feel good. And then you start to pick that apart. Why does this not feel good? Well, I know it's kind of vanity, but it doesn't really go together. And that's not how I see myself. I see myself as someone, if you really start to unpack it, you go, I see myself as someone that does have his stuff together. And when I don't have things that coordinate, it feels off. And I feel like other people see me as not coordinated. And I see myself as not coordinated. And that's not representative of who I am or how I feel. And then there's times where you put on an outfit that's crisp and put together and you're like, man, I feel really good. Why do you feel really good? Is it weird to feel good? Is it a sinful thing or a bad thing to feel good about the way that you look? I don't think so. I think that that is a good thing God created for people to experience, somewhat just for the enjoyment of it, but also because I think that God does make us with the ability to have self-discovery, to have things that we notice about ourselves, about other people, about the world around us that are right and true. And that's where you can talk about how architecture can be really pleasing, clothing can be really pleasing, food can be really pleasing, and you gravitate towards a portion of that that other people might identify with or not, but that's where it gets personal. So when you talk about clothing and talk about making a business around clothing, I'll definitely work with people that are, I just need this thing and I don't care to think about it very much. And that's appropriate because they've made that decision already. Then there's people that have no idea what they want or why, but they know they want to make a change. Like I've had more conversations about that recently, especially on Instagram. For whatever reason, the messages that I've been going back and forth with people on are like, I'm sick of wearing gym shorts and t-shirts and I don't know what I want to wear or why. I just know I want to make a change. And I don't even really have anything to dress up for, but I know that I don't like the way that I feel and the way that I dress has something to do with that. So you can affect the way that you think by dressing a different way, but you can also affect the way that you decide to dress based on the way that you think. Like I can say, I want to wear this outfit and see how I feel about it. Well, okay, I feel really good about that. Now pick apart what about this outfit makes me feel good. And you'll start to understand a little bit more about the decisions you can make about clothing ongoing that you're like, oh, well, I really like that this one has texture. Like your corduroy jacket is awesome. It's super cool. It leans a little bit more casual. Does that reflect how you want to feel and how you want others to feel about you when you're hosting a podcast, when you're going to a client meeting, when you're going to a wedding? Like, what about this makes me feel better or worse? Because that would be really appropriate for all those scenarios that I'm talking about, but it would be inappropriate for other scenarios where you're like, man, I'm wearing this and I feel out of place.
There's this impression that you have to be rich to dress well or intentional.
You don't. It's a myth.
Great. Let's go there.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Where does someone start? So when you have that conversation with people, that I'm getting this more and more as well. That's why I couldn't wait to talk to you. And it seems like a conversation that I'm having personally. Mm-hmm. I'm coming to my own kind of epiphanies about the way I dressed. I would say a lot of my 20s, the older I get and as I reflect on it, were just extremely selfish.
Mm-hmm.
It was very individualistic. I thought about all of my personal wants and needs, and if anyone thought differently, I didn't care. I would break through walls. I would say what I had to say in the name of truth. I wouldn't try to change my tone too much. I would just say, like, you just can't handle it or whatever it might be. I would wear the clothes. I'd wear the gym shorts that I wanted to wear and any context that I wanted to. And so it was...
So you're getting kicked out of this restaurant. I'm sorry. No.
And so what I would say is my external appearance was reflective of my internal mindset. It was like, I don't care what people think about the way that I look. It's their problem, not mine. These are the clothing that I like to wear. I feel comfortable in them. And yeah, there would be some time periods where that rebelliousness of like wearing something out of context because I just wanted to be individualistic in that context. And so I would go to a situation and wear something different just to be different. And I knew internally that I didn't feel good.
I don't know that that's necessarily what was going on. I mean, I have a question about that, if I can. I think that's a very easy story to tell to yourself, that's what you were doing. But I wonder if it was something even simpler than that. Because on the one hand, yes, I can definitely identify with the feelings of rebelliousness. It's like, well, you tell me that you should do this, but then whatever, blah, blah, blah. I think that what I'll see, and this is where maybe this lines up with you or maybe it doesn't, what I'll see is when people have a habit of dressing, I'll say, inappropriately casually, not like intentional, put together, thought through kind of casual and appropriate for the situation, but more athleisure wear in any scenario, that kind of a thing. I don't know that it's so much rebelliousness as it is just, well, that's what everybody's doing, and I don't even see somebody to rebel against. It's literally just, well, I mean, that I didn't even realize there was a standard anymore. So I'm curious about, was that more so your experience of just like, when did you start to think about that? Did you notice that from the get-go and you're like, I'm going to do it anyway? Versus, well, I didn't even know that I was thinking about that until later on. And I was like, oh, well, actually, now that I'm starting to wrestle with this whole, well, should I wear something else? That's when you start, I don't know. Tell me about that.
Like I said at the beginning, I think I noticed that I was selfish in my heart towards people. And then I noticed that my whole life, including my outward appearance, was reflective of that selfishness as a person.
Okay.
And so I don't necessarily like, and there definitely is a culture of casual. And so there could have been that as well of like, there's not even a standard. So my mind's not even thinking differently about my outward appearance. But I have, as I've gotten older, had a baby, and gotten married, I've just reflected over my 20s as a very selfish time in my life. And as I'm working out of that selfishness, as I'm not thinking so much about myself in every context of how I do business, how I try to approach my wife, how I try to approach my friends in conversation, and wanting to hear their hearts more and understand that the world is much bigger than myself. And then also trying to say that humans are oriented in a certain way, and your impression, your outward appearance is a reflection of selfishness as well. I think if you come into a context and you were to elevate that experience and you were to dress, and I care about me, and so I want to take this serious, I want to take myself serious, but I also have appreciation for the person sitting across from me, and I want to present that as well, that I respect you and that I'm taking this serious by the way that I'm talking to you, by the way I'm trying to listen to you, and the way that I dress for you. Like I want that. When I come into church, I want to dress better because I appreciate the Lord. I appreciate Jesus Christ and what he has done. And it's not me feeling like I have to accomplish things and dress a certain way to have his approval. It's that respect for the other side of the party. And so I'm trying to live my life as if it's not all about me, and wearing sweatpants everywhere would be the most comfortable, easy, don't have to think about it, don't have to take a shower, hair's a little bit messy, but it doesn't matter because I'm just worried about myself.
But that scenario that you're laying out doesn't sound comfortable at all. Like, it's comfortable in the sense that you're wearing something soft, you're wearing something stretchy, but again, you're removing any sense of structure that allows you to experience some of the I don't want to sound too heady, but like some of the higher enjoyments in life of, what it feels like to feel appreciated or to see something beautiful, or even to feel a sense of self-respect. I think when it comes to people, to go back to your original question of how does someone start the process of, I'll label it, taking their style more seriously. How do I start to cultivate a sense of personal style? How do I develop my wardrobe to begin with? Like all of those things. Would that be a fair way of putting the question?
Like how do people go about it themselves?
Yeah, exactly. Like if someone's wanting to start the process of improving their external appearance and the clothes that they wear, where do they start? Is that a good way of asking the question you're asking?
We can go more practical, yeah. Because you talked about that's where you kind of start with your clients, is you start to go philosophical.
I always start with the questions, why, and like what is the reason behind this? So it can be as simple as, what event are we getting prepared for, or are we doing a general update for the closet? Either way, you still ask the same questions after that. If you're wanting to update the closet, it's either for a specific event or it's just time to get things in your life up to date. Then you start to consider, well, what is it that I'm dressing for? What types of meetings am I going to? I work a lot with different business owners or people that work in the world of business. And so it will be a version of like, well, when do you wear a suit? What types of things do you wear a suit to? Full suit and tie. I don't care what the answer is. I just want to know what types of things they are, how often that they happen. When do you wear a sport coat or a blazer? Shirts, pants, when do you wear jeans? When do you wear all these different things? And you kind of get this 30,000 foot view of a person's life and the things that they do, the places they go, the people they interact with, the environments that they're a part of, and what they need to wear along the way. That all kind of fits together like this map of a person's life. And you go, oh, okay. Well, this is representative of what Dillon's life looks like. And I know how clothes ideally should interact with that and the options you can take to do that. Now you have options. Now you have choices. So we can build this plan. So we'll start by asking questions about a person's life and how they interact with clothes. And you have a wardrobe plan. And then the practical steps is, okay, well, this is the wardrobe plan. Most people, 95% of people aren't the ones that say, my house just burned down in a fire and I need to get all of this all at once. That's really intimidating. And it's honestly pretty ill-advised unless you truly need everything completely redone. There's minimal cases where that happens. Most people are very well served by starting with the big concept first and then taking a slice out of that and saying, well, okay, if I was going to invest 10 grand into my wardrobe, where would I allocate those dollars first? What would make an impact? If I'm going to get clothing, and it doesn't have to be expensive clothing, it can be thrifted clothing, it can be the clothing that you already have in the closet and you're just going through and intentionally looking at what makes you feel the way that you want to feel, or being prepared for the occasions that you're getting ready for. What are the things that are going to make the biggest impact to you first? What are you going to use the most? What's going to go with the most types of things? That's stuff that I help people think through and talk about and then execute on when it's time to execute on that. So where someone starts is with questions. Why am I considering this in the first place? Is it because I lost weight or because I put on muscle? Is it because I just got a promotion? Is it because I just want to feel better about myself and I don't really have anything that I want to dress for, but I know I want to feel different than I feel right now? Those are all valid answers to the question, why am I considering this in the first place? And then the answers to that then start to take you down this path of working from the end and coming back to where you need to start.
For this portion of the podcast, we're going to use the word gentleman, something that we've been talking about quite a bit.
Yes, sir.
If there's a man on the other side, he doesn't have a mentor, maybe not a father figure. No one is, you said that the standards aren't really talked about as much. Give us like some gentleman rules for the road. So like say that we're learning etiquette for the first time. We need to know where the fork's at. We need to know where the spoon's at. We sit down at an actual restaurant for the first time and we're like, what is all this? Which fork do I use? If no one has any idea how the table is set up, what are some like quick tips for a man who wants to work on his etiquette, work on his masculinity, work on his style? What's some gentleman rules to the road that you would give someone of like what types of clothing to stay away from, when to wear casual, when to not? Do they need to be in a full suit all the time? Are jeans appropriate? What are just some like quick tips for a young man on how to dress and how to elevate his demeanor just for a casual work week? He works a 9 to 5, potentially a corporate job. He's young, 25 to 28. He's married. He's never been taught style.
So you don't have a style icon or a mentor or something. You're just thinking about this. You want to generally start to think better about it. It does start with your thoughts. Who are you trying to become? You have a version of a man in your mind that you want to become more like. Try and define what characteristics come to mind for you. If you're working a 9 to 5 and you're going into work and you're like, man, I know I want to feel better than I do, but I don't know where to start. Try and define what the ideal future would look like. Like, okay, I don't really have a mentor, but is there even a character on TV or movies that I'm like, man, the Kingsman, that's where it's at. Like when that guy puts on the double-breasted suit, he's got the umbrella, the cane, or whatever it is. Like that just looks super cool. Or Daniel Craig in James Bond. Like I just like that vibe. Like that's okay. You can take from pop culture. You can take notes from pop culture. And again, my encouragement would be to try and pick apart what elements of it that you actually can identify that you like, as detailed as you can get. And if it's like, man, I love that he's in a 3-piece, that's fine. But if you're like, I love the way that it just kind of, it looks put together, but it doesn't take all the attention. Okay, how can I make myself look put together without being so flashy that my clothes are getting all the attention? Well, he pressed his shirt. Okay, I can press a shirt. I can learn how to iron. I can go on YouTube. I can do those things. Yeah, it's hard to talk about without talking about looking up to the people that you see, that you like the idea of. There's a guy that comes to mind for me, for instance, when I'm thinking about how do I want to feel in a meeting with a CEO of a large company, for instance. I think about a guy named Jose Perez. He's just this picture perfect, not just the looks, but how he behaves, how he responds. He looks like someone that people should take seriously. It's in his demeanor. It's in his mannerisms. Another practical piece of advice that I'd say is make yourself reckon with silence. Thinking before you speak, and even the pauses that I'm taking right now. My nature is not very well regulated in terms of just letting words come out of my mouth. I have to work really hard at that. My wife is much better at taking a thought in her mind and then communicating it through her mouth once, on purpose, with well put together sentence structure. I'm not that way. So I have to force myself. I'll even put a hand on my chin to remind myself, think about this before you say it. Give the person across the table from you room to breathe, room to speak, room for silence to hang in the air. That's something that seems to be a bit of a challenge for a lot of people, but it makes a big difference when you're having conversation with another person. If you can give them space to breathe and to think, your conversations will start to become a little bit more mature. People will start to view you as more mature. Think about all the things that you don't like. Like, I don't like it when people think that I'm an idiot. Okay, well, what makes people think that I'm an idiot? When I say things that sound idiotic. Well, when do I say things that sound idiotic? Usually when I don't think about things before I say them, or when I just say whatever comes to mind, whenever, because I'm trying to get a laugh or whatever. Even saying whatever over and over again, like I'm starting to go, oh man, okay, well, that's something that I can take note of. Maybe that's something that I can try and change. If you start with the things you don't like, try and think of how do I remove those things from my life? Or you can start with the things that you do like, and you ask, well, what would a person that does do those things, how do they behave? How do they operate?
Are you seeing a shift in young men thinking about these things? And yeah, you said in your DMs, we can talk a little bit about your social media, but I love it lately, and you've put a lot of effort and intentionality in your social media, and I really appreciate it. But I'm guessing it's getting some young men who are looking up to you in those ways. Do you see a little bit of the shift changing of like tradition or institution or style?
I see more people, classic menswear goes back to like the 40s and 50s. And when people were dressing up in a suit every day and they had 1 or 2 suits that they took care of and they want it to work for a lot of different situations. So classic colors, classic patterns, and the style that doesn't care so much if you change your weight a little bit because it's going to drape really, really well. I've had more people asking me about stuff like that.
Thank you for that. I think it's been such a fun conversation for me, even personally. And so it's just, it's so interesting that I was like really coming to these conclusions. And then right as I was really taking this conversation serious, you came into my life. And so you've been a big help to me, and I'm sure you'll continue to be so. So
thank you. I would encourage anyone, you do not need to be an historian or a specific type of expert to take yourself seriously. And there's a ton of different resources out there. I'm trying to put out as much as I learn to help other people learn, but you can learn even apart from me. You don't have to buy expensive clothes. You don't have to buy custom clothes to take yourself seriously or your image seriously. I can help with that for the people that would like that, or really the people that I work with are busy and they don't have time to manage that kind of stuff. But my encouragement is don't overthink it. Just note your intention and go from there. Go away from the things you don't like and go towards the things that you do like.
That's exactly what I've done. I think I've allowed myself to experiment, and yeah, like you said, I found me a couple North Stars, and I'm not spending a ton of money. I'm kind of getting creative, finding stuff that I like. This is from my grandpa, and it means a lot to me. Even this watch was from another grandpa, and just stuff that's been in my closet that I just like haven't been intentional with, and just trying stuff. And I get comments, and I look like the oddball out in my office every once in a while. But
do you feel the oddball out?
No.
Does it feel like you?
It feels much more like me. Yeah. It feels like what I want to dress like, and I want to take myself serious. And it's interesting that when I do get comments, I don't take offense to them. I'm like, this is exactly what I was going for. Like, you look handsome today. Like, what are you all dressed up for? Like, you have something special? It's like, I might have a couple meetings that day, but like, no, like I want people to think that way.
I'm dressed up for me and I'm dressed up for you.
Yep.
Do you need to wear a 3-piece suit? No. 100% not. Why do I wear a 3-piece suit? Because it communicates my profession really well. And I do want people to think that I'm taking, or to feel that I'm taking my meetings with them very seriously. So most of the time I'm wearing a suit of some kind. Sometimes I'll wear a sport coat, but most of the time you'll see me in a suit. Do I wear other clothes as well? Absolutely, but different clothes for different times and different places.
So we'll go through some rapid fire.
Sure.
I do this with every guest. And so just off the top of your head. So if you have a free weekend, are you going in or going on a staying in or going on a spontaneous trip?
Since we have young kids, we're likely staying in when my wife and I have enough rest. We do enjoy going to like state parks and stuff like that, or even going to the indoor playground up at, it's in the northwest side of town. The name of it's blanking me right now, but going to state parks, going out on little things, those are really fun. But we're in the season of life right now where staying close to home makes a lot more sense for us and is more restful.
Amen. Do you prefer a good book, a good podcast, or a good movie? And which one is your favorite in that category?
Stage of life right now, probably more so a good TV show. Though I am getting more back into books, but for TV series, ones that we've really enjoyed have been things like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, some of the best storytelling and world building, where you just want to learn more about each character. And they have, I would say that's top for us.
Okay. A little bit harder. One quote that has always stuck with you.
This is one that's stuck with me. I am not important, but what I do is important. It's by actually the founder of our company. His name's Spencer Hayes. He's passed away in 2017. But that, when I think about something that makes me think about the truth, that stands out. I am not important, but what I do is important.
Like that. Are you a foodie, coffee connoisseur, or experienced junkie?
Practically speaking, we're in the coffee stage of life, and I do very much so enjoy a good pour over coffee or a good espresso-based beverage with quality roasted beans. It's one of the little luxuries in life that we've allowed ourselves without becoming snobby about it. So I would say coffee connoisseur at the moment, but I'd love to do more in the foodie and experienced junkie world too.
What is one underrated place in Indy that more people should know about?
Eagle Creek and Holiday Park. Get outside, feel the wind on your face, the wind in your hair, the sun in your face. Go hike a trail, go to the ornithology center, go learn about things. There's a lot of really beautiful things that can help you feel centered or just enjoy nature. I think it's awesome.
The last guest leaves a question for the next guest, not knowing who they left it for. So your question is, what is something that you've learned about yourself in the past year?
I think I rest in the promises of God more than I anticipated that I would. And it's not that I think about that kind of stuff all the time, but we have two kids. One is our daughter, she's 3 years old, and one is our son. He's now 16 months old, so just over a year. And the last year's been pretty crazy. We had, the long story short is that God provided for a lot of needs that we had. Our son had some complications at birth. He was in the NICU for like a month. And it's in the looking back, like in the moment, I wasn't really thinking about it very much. But the reality is that I think God carried us through a lot of things and protected us from overwhelm. And it's kind of like with developing security in your faith. I'm a believer, a Christian, and when it comes to feelings of like someone asks you, well, do you believe that God is real or that Jesus died for your sins or that he loves you? There's no question in my mind. Like it is a security and a sureness that's there. And the same type of experience I've felt this past year with questions about, well, what's going to happen next? Or, I mean, there was, at the very beginning of our son being born, there was a period of time where we were living kind of hour by hour. And in the moment, I wasn't even really thinking about that. But a year later, I look back at that and I was like, wow, God really just provided for us to rest in his promises. And that makes me feel really grateful and happy because that's what I want to do. That's what I ideally want of myself. But I think that's the other big thing is that it's like, that wasn't me though. That's not my strength. That's God providing his strength. And that's very satisfying. It's satisfying to recognize when, for no merit of your own, God sustains you and you allow him to instead of trying to fight against it.
That was the perfect one to end on. Man, I have so appreciated our friendship and our time together in such a short period of time, but we've got to share some great conversations, and you've taught me so much about just more than style, about my life, about intentionality, and about my walk with the Lord. And that's like the best thing you can ask for a person, is to nourish those parts of your life. And so
I appreciate it, man. I'll tell you as well, because I think of myself when it comes to my role, people get real excited about the clothes. I get really excited about the people. That's really what I'm here for when it comes to why I do what I do. I get to provide for my family along the way, but the thing that I get to do is help people learn more about themselves and then express it through their clothes. That's the medium. That's cool. But it's like therapy with clothing. And that's how I approach things. I think that's how more people should approach things. You should try and understand yourself first, and then your role, and then the occasion, and then your clothing.
Thank you.
Thank you.